Hey there, folks. It's Jimmy Stewart here. Hoping this is finding you all doing well. Now, today's video is going to be number 4 of our series on classic vintage guitars. And today's guitar is certainly a classic. I wouldn't say it's a vintage, although it's based on a vintage guitar. But I'm talking about this guy right here. Now, it's not a vintage because this is a 2005 that I bought new in 2005. This is a Fender Custom Shop version in Lake Placid blue of a 1965 Fender Strat. And they call it a 65 NOS. NOS meaning new old stock. So, for instance, it would be like you went into your music store in 2005 and they just happened to have a 1965 Fender Strat in Lake Placid blue sitting in its case that hadn't been touched since it came off the factory line in 1965. So all the specs of this are 65 correct. The way it was built then is how it was built in 2005 from the custom shop at Fender. And 65 was an interesting year for the Fender Stratocaster because Fender got sold to CBS. Yes, that's CBS. And they started making quite a few changes. But prior to the changes being made after it was sold to CBS, they considered the late 64, early 65 a transitional period, and this has got a couple of the transitional things that were occurring. Before the headstock got enlarged so they could put a bigger logo on it, they did increase the logo size from the old spaghetti, the thin Fender logo on here, to a larger font and a larger sized Fender. So this is called the Transition Headstock. It has the 4 patent numbers on it, which is period correct for 1965, late 64. The later 65s included a 5th patent number. So the Transitional Headstock, it's got the laminated, round, rolled rosewood fretboard. It's got the heavier, thicker C-neck on it, which I like. And this is a 9.5 radius. 65 pickups, the way they were wired back then. Still had the 3-way switch back in 65. It wasn't until much later, I think around 77, before they actually started even considering the 5-way switch, which is what they put in them standard now. And your normal tone in volume, and your whammy bar and Strat type tremolo system on here. So you can see from the back, and again your bolt-on hard maple neck and tuners. Very nice guitar. Again, this is a 2005 custom shop based on a 65 NOS. And what I'll do is give you the up-close video of this and explain a little bit more about what was going on with Fender at the time. So let's have a look at it. So in 1954, Fender came out with the Stratocaster. And this is, like I said, a 65 model with the iconic 3 pickups. And what people don't really realize, I guess, on a Strat is that you cannot have all 3 of those pickups on at the same time. You have each individual pickup by itself, or a combination of the bridge in the middle, or a combination of the neck in the middle, but you can't get a combination of the other ones. Back in 65, I said they had a 3-way switch, which really is a 5-way switch because you can get that little spot in between that people started doing, and Fender actually recognized in 77 and started putting a 5-way switch in there. A couple of things that happened in 65, like I said, the transitional year, they ended up transitioning that headstock, and on the fingerboard they went to a perloid fingerboard marking instead of the old clay markings that they had previously from 64 previous. They kept the tuners, the Kluson tuners, and on this model you can see the Fender Custom Shop logo
on the back of the headstock. Some nice figuring on this maple neck. Some really nice graining on this particular one anyway, as you can see as I go down the neck. And as we turn, you'll see they went to a pearloid side dot marker on the fretboard. And like I said, pearloid dot markers instead of the clay that were on the 64 and earlier models. And the other thing that they did was they went from what was used to be almost like a mint green, a light green pickguard, cellulose pickguard. They went to a 3-ply in 65, white pickguard, as you can see on mine. And the Lake Placid blue. Now most of your Strats back then were sunburst. However, they did have a bunch of different custom colors, and Lake Placid was a fairly common color back in the 60s. There's that headstock I'm talking about. That's the transitional headstock with the larger font and the 4 patent numbers. And that laminated rosewood fretboard. And I think 65, they actually had an option for a maple as well. Now the case is actually period correct as well. It's got the orange lining, which was correct for 1965. Very nice case. And I still have all the case candy, as they call it, right down to the original strap, the hanging tags. Never opened the bag. It's got the original cleaning cloth and cord and paperwork. I guess it's nice to save all that stuff and keep it as pristine as you can, which I've tried to do over the years. There's the actual certificate of authenticity from Fender showing that that is a 65 NOS with R23106 is your serial number on this. Original strap. Like I said, the bag with all the goodies. Nice guitar. And again, I don't play this a lot. I keep it in the case mostly. But I like to take it out from time to time, especially when I'm recording. When you want that Strat sound, I can grab it. And I string this guitar like I do all mine with Diodario 9s, which is what I put on all my guitars.
So, Leo Fender released the Fender Stratocaster in 1954 was the first year. And it took a little bit of time before the rock and rollers really started to endorse this guitar. Some of the first, most visible players, I guess you could consider back then, was Buddy Holly, even in Richie Valens, who both of them died on that plane crash, I think, in 1959. Both of them played a Fender Strat. Then it was really the 60s surf music who took the Strat and increased it in noticeability. You can remember the Beach Boys first coming out. So you had Dick Dale playing that surfy kind of stuff, the Ventures. You had Apache coming from the other side of the pond there. So there was a few people making that more of a surf type guitar, even more so than really the Jazzmaster and or the Jaguar were considered back then. And it wasn't really until 65 where even John Lennon and George Harrison received their first Stratocasters just in time for the Help album in 1965. So John, with that droning A note in Ticket to Ride, can be heard as, I think, the first time you'll hear a Stratocaster on a Beatles record. And that was back in 1965. So it took some time to build up, especially across the pond. And then when Jimi Hendrix got his first Strat in 1966 and went over to Britain in 67, is when the Stratocaster really took off and everybody wanted to play one. And that's when Eric Clapton decided to get his, and all those guys ended up getting Stratocasters after really Hendrix broke it out of its mold and took it to another level. So that's going to do it for today, folks. I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the 2005 1965 Fender Custom Shop Stratocaster. I do appreciate you stopping by. To all the subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I would appreciate that a lot. So until next time, this is Jimmy Stewart saying so long, take care, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.